Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, I bring you July Zerg. He is in the blue trunks, and he is playing Zerg. Yes, I know, it's shocking. Versus his opponent, the one and only Mousesports MaNa. He is in the red trunks, and he is playing Protoss. Now, I'm not entirely sure if a lot of people really saw that first match coming, and of course the result of it. MaNa beating July Zerg convincingly as well. I think that's what really surprised me. And it's not to take away from the skill of MaNa, but we are talking about one of the best Zerg in the world right here. And we're also talking about a matchup that, let's be honest, MaNa considers his weakest. That's not me talking, that's him. He says that PvZ is his weakest. Evidently, he's been shoring up his defenses very, very nicely. And MaNa, of course, one of the home ground heroes of this particular tournament. He did incredibly well in the previous one. Coming in runners-up, as I recall, losing out to his teammate Nama, which must have been an incredibly confusing game to cast. I can just see so many mistakes there. Nama, MaNa, typical. Scouting action going on. Whatever the case, he did really, really well dealing with July Zerg. July Zerg tried to apply pressure, but MaNa playing cool and calm. There were moments where he could have lost control, but he didn't. July Zerg was playing very precisely, switching back between Roaches and Hydralisks with a set of Zerglings moving in as well. It was not enough. The master rank firepower of the Protoss, a very efficient play. Good use of the Colossus as well. He was losing them a little bit, but he wasn't losing them fast enough. I think maybe that's actually, and you know, me nitpicking July Zerg is possibly the stupidest thing you could ever heard, but maybe that was a bit of a weakness from the corrupt account of July Zerg, simply because he didn't quite have the numbers to bring the Colossus down faster. Always something to consider. Assimilator going down, and there we go. We've got a pylon coming up for MaNa as well, and there is the gateway. July Zerg opening up with the extractor, following that up with the spawning pool. Crossfire is pretty much impossible to expand early on if you happen to be Zerg. If you're against Protoss, it's as simple as that. There's just far, and I do mean far too many possibilities for the Protoss player to mess with you. Not ideal at all. Speeding upgrade coming up right here. And we can have a look over at Mousesports MaNa's base, and what we will see is a Simon X score coming down. Very standard opening for MaNa into the second assimilator. Not looking for any hyper-aggressive early play. Seems to be MaNa's much more comfortable with trying to get the tech up, working on it as much as possible, and defending against MaNa's pressure. There's the expansion right there for July Zerg on 3 minutes 55. Needed to say a little bit later, simply because he went into that. And note once again, July Zerg pulls all of his drones from the gas as soon as he's got enough for the speed link. He has the timings of this build worked out to the nanosecond. Very, very precise. Doesn't do anything that he doesn't mean to. Sentry coming up right now for MaNa, and his mineral count is getting fairly high, so it does indicate to me that he will be looking to expand, especially with another sentry to follow that one up. There we go, that shouldn't be a problem. Another gateway coming up, however, so perhaps he's not going to do that at all. A couple of sentries usually indicates that you're looking to expand pretty early. In this case, he's actually followed up with 2 more gateways. I have to wonder if he did that on purpose. He's deliberately and aggressively denying scouting over here. July, however, does check for the expansion and doesn't see it. Of course, July can't see inside MaNa's base, so I have to wonder what MaNa's going to transition into right here. Pylon going down the back, it's possible he just decided to delay his expansion for a while, just to get up 2 more gateways. It would be a little risky to expand on 1 gate, certainly. Admittedly, it has given July Zerg plenty of time to start working on this expansion of his right here. Drone count is at 27. If he goes anything like the last game, he'll stop at 28 and work on new something. It looks like he's not going to do anything of the sort. A bit of a deviation right here for him. There's the Roach one coming up for July Zerg. And right now, MaNa just playing extremely passively, aggressively denying scouting opportunities. The timing of the expansion has been seen right there by MaNa, who I might add has exceptional coverage of this particular map. He can see pretty much everything. He's got control of both Solnaga watchtowers. He's under no real threat of being pushed out of that. MaNa with a defensive force and little more than that. 2 more sentries warping in for MaNa. Hallucination upgrade and the Forge. So this is a very similar build to the one that we saw previous from him. Admittedly, taking your third on the Crossfire is a little trickier for obvious reasons. Crossfire is kind of an unpleasant map for you defending your third, as you can see. Here's the natural expansion. We go all the way around here, up that ramp, and that's where your third is. So reinforcing, pretty difficult, really. Especially with the Terran. Not so difficult for Protoss for obvious reasons, and reasonable for Zerg. MaNa having a look around, seeing what he can see, which is of course nothing. Patrolling backwards and forwards, just checking for scouts. July with a small expeditionary force of Zerglings moving in right here. He has gone through to Burrow, which means he's picked up his lair, and he is most likely looking for a roach attack at some point in the not too distant future. He has got the roach warming up, but we've seen no sign of him building anything yet. Just looking for the upgrades, more so than anything else. Hallucinated Phoenix goes and scouts. Nice free scouting information coming in right here for MaNa. The nice thing about that is that it delays when you have to pick up a robotics bay. So you can get a bit more aggressive. Put down more gateways instead of building robotics. Robotics facility coming down there. And if you intend to play a little bit later with Colossus, it's okay to get the hallucination so you don't have to get an observer. And every now and again, some people actually get full play, which is hilarious. Hydralisk Den coming down right here. Roach upgrades are looking pretty strong. Something I'd like to point out that you might not have noticed, there was actually a tiny little roach inside there. Perhaps you can see it on the display where my cursor is. It looks incredibly hungry. I don't want to be anywhere near that. Hydralisk Den and Evolution Chamber coming up, and a quick little bit, once again, of scouting information. July Zerg is under no illusions that he can actually go after MaNa right now. I could hardly blame him. July Zerg also looking to hang on to this space. For obvious reasons, he wants to prevent an expansion here. As I said before, these bases are very, very far apart regardless of where you go. You can either go here, or you can go here. If you break down these rocks right here, of course, you open up another avenue into a base, but you gain easier access to this area. Okay. What have we got coming up, folks? July Zerg with a Zerg missile attack upgrade. Brood Spines as well, so we are, of course, going back into Hydralisk. We saw the Hydra Den come up a little bit earlier. And Colossus on the way up for MaNa. MaNa playing a really, really laid-back passive game right now. July Zerg with a very hefty advantage in terms of his economy, however. 60 to 47. He thinks he can simply outlast his opponent. He picks up his third base right here in the corner. And MaNa not really in a position to threaten it. He has scouted it. He knows that it's there. Colossus count will be coming in very shortly. In the meantime, MaNa deciding he wants to push out. He doesn't really have the firepower to do that. That would be a little bit risky. He could easily get those sentries picked off if he's not careful. A lot of energy in those sentries. He's actually sitting on 7 of them. Proved to be very, very nice indeed. There's the Overseer getting great scouting information right here. It spots the robotics bay. Well aware of what's coming up. Here comes the Colossus right now, and extended thermal lance upgrade to follow it up. And MaNa just trying to gather as good of a death ball as he can. Spires on the way up to deal with that, of course. He needs to get the Corruptor count up. That's July at any rate. If MaNa was building Corruptors, I would be incredibly confused. July pushing forward, and he's got a force of Hydralisks there, and this is a standard composition, it seems, in Zerg versus Protoss. Missile attack upgrade coming in, so it looks like this is going to be a timing attack. Also try and time it with that push, perhaps. No doubt he's going to then go and prove me wrong. We've got 15 seconds remaining in this one, so if he wants to engage, he has to do so now. Doesn't really matter all that much because MaNa does have the +1 upgrade, and that really is about it. He's not researching anything else. Saving as much of his gas for Colossus as possible. July Zerg pulling back once again. He's staying nice and fluid, looking to respond to anything that's coming in, and of course using his superior map control. However, his army supply count is surprisingly low. At least it was, until that mass spawn coming in there. 68 to 59. Fairly equal up until this point. He takes his 4th. Big force moving over there to try and secure this expansion. Of course, July Zerg now knows that his opponent is planning on doing that. July Zerg's map control really can't be underestimated here. It gives him so much information to work with, and half of StarCraft 2 is really about what information you have versus what information your opponent either has or does not have. MaNa, the good force moving in right here. That's 83 supplied to 72 in the favor of July. Level 2 missile attack upgrade is coming in, but it's nowhere near completion. 7 Corruptors coming in this time around to deal with 2 Colossus, so a few more than last time. July Zerg backing off as quickly as possible. Doesn't want to lose anything right now. Taking a little bit of damage on the roaches, nothing that can't be easily regenerated. And MaNa actually prevented from going for it, blocked off by his own force field. MaNa actually leaving his Colossus out there. I'm very surprised July didn't take a pot shot at them there. Those Colossus were well ahead of the rest of his force right there. Could have been nasty. July Zerg looking for a flank, and MaNa going in right here, and the battle is finally joined between those two as July Zerg tries to get in there, but he's been prevented by doing so by these force fields. Corruptor's coming in from the side. He needs to bring them down as quickly as possible. Stalker Fireball being inflicted on that as rapidly as he can. But as you see, MaNa is absolutely tearing it up right here. Jelizog taking a huge amount of damage. Another Colossus is taken down by those Corruptors, but it doesn't matter too much because Jelizog is getting incinerated right now. More Stalkers, and Jelizog's force soundly defeated, and that's a bunch of free Corruptors for you. That was impressive play there by MaNa. Excellent, excellent positioning and great placement of force fields, and that has done a lot of damage to July. However, remember that July has had a superior economy for a very long time. He can reinforce the second wave coming in right now, trying to do as much damage as possible. Zerglings swarming in right now. MaNa taking punishment. Needs to retreat as quickly as possible. Doesn't have the missile attack upgrade level 2, but he's losing a lot of Stalkers right here as the Zerglings harass those Stalkers, trying to fall back as rapidly as they can, all the way back to their base. He does have a Twilight Council coming up, but of course Blink is nowhere near right now. A few free Corruptors, and he's joined by some reinforcements. It's a shame he doesn't have any force fields right now. That would really help July getting into punching range. MaNa pushed all the way back right here. However, supporting fire coming in from the Colossus right now, and repulsed very easily. Some damage certainly done in that follow-up, and that kind of makes up for the force that Jelizog actually lost earlier. And no workers killed, really, but we can have a look at this. This should tell you the tale. Jelizog has lost slightly more resources, but his economy is much stronger. You can see it right there. He is on 4 bases. MaNa's on 3. He's only just really set up right there. That is a lot of photon cannons. He is incredibly paranoid there. I don't blame him with these tunneling claw roaches right here. Army supply, as you can see, MaNa has very little. This is the scary thing about Jelizog. You might think, well, he just threw away 2 armies. Actually, it kind of doesn't matter, because Jelizog has a lot of hatcheries, and he's got plenty, and I do mean plenty of money. This is going to cause MaNa some real problems. It's going to have to be very, very efficient. Now, these cannons are not going to be enough to deal with this many roaches, especially not with the +2 missile attack upgrade. Moving in right now, we are looking at 46 roaches total, smashing their way through this expansion. MaNa is going to sacrifice it. He has no other choice. He can't go for it right now. I don't blame him one little bit. That's too many roaches. Now, MaNa's been doing extremely well up until this point, but Jelizog's just been powering ahead in terms of his economy. And while MaNa's been able to win those initial engagements, this is going to be really difficult for him. Corruptor swarming in, only a single Colossus on the back. There's the force field split, and burrowing underneath the force fields right now. He pops up. Nice play there by Jelizog, all the way into MaNa's defensive line. That Colossus is down. The Stalkers trying to hold the line as best they can. A quick blink there by MaNa. How good is the blink micromanagement? Is it good enough? He's looking for it right now. He's surviving as much as he can. This pylon is taking a good amount of punishment. MaNa with another quick blink, but that was a mass blink right there. That's a little bit dodgy, but reinforcements coming in. Jelizog's roach count is actually collapsing right here, but he is going to be reinforcing with additional roaches very, very shortly. MaNa's stalker count has finally been nailed down. GG, ladies and gentlemen. Well played there by MaNa, but regardless, July with an immense economic advantage over his opponent and using it to simply bludgeon him to death.